Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. I hope you had an incredible weekend. I hope you got to go outside and witness the solar eclipse if you were in the area. I know where I am got about 90%, so when we went out there and saw that a little bit today. I hope this week is shaping up to be a good one. But we have a big show. Last weekend was a big weekend in sports. So much went on. We don't even have time to talk about all of it today. We'll spill that over a little bit into tomorrow. WrestleMania happened. We'll talk about that a little bit later, maybe. We had the first of our March Madness champions crowned yesterday at the game starting at 3, where South Carolina, the juggernaut team, took down Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes to secure the perfect season. We will talk about all of that in just a second. We're also going to break down the men's final between UCONN and Purdue. Talk about how that matchup might go, who I have winning, as well as breaking down the results of the Final Four that took place in the men's side to get to where we are today. Big coaching news out of the NCAA today as well. John Calipari leaves Kentucky. The legendary Kentucky coach, been with them forever, one of the most winningest coaches of all time with Kentucky, takes his talents to Arkansas after a couple of disappointing losses in a row. And we will close out our show talking a little bit about baseball. There was a bunch of articles that came out, a bunch of people saying, hey, the pitch clog is getting pitchers hurt. We'll take a look at if that's true or not, break down what might be the real cause of pitching injuries, the uptick in it in the last 5 years or so, at least major ones. But before we get into all of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, control what we talk about, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation. We appreciate anything that you do leave. If you leave that tip or donation, leave a message with it, it'll pop up on the bottom of the screen. It'll show for me, you, for everybody else that's watching, exactly what you had to say. We will have a little discussion about what you had to say, along with anything else that you would like to talk about. Once again, you can control what we talk about in this show. All you need to do is leave a tip or donation at gsmcpodcast.net. Once again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. But we have a lot to talk about. So, what do you say we just get right into it to start? South Carolina, the Gamecocks are champions. Champions, undefeated champions. They take down Iowa on Sunday, yesterday, just about 24 hours ago. They take down Caitlin Clark and Iowa to secure their national championship. That team is stacked, and outside of them, as winning their championship, they had an incredible season. They went undefeated. They were the number one overall seed. They obviously just won the national championship. But they did it in such a dominant fashion. They had the AP Women's Coach of the Year, Dawn Staley, who is being talked about as a potential hire at Kentucky now that John Calipari is gone. It's a huge moment for their program, a program that has been dominant. It's the third time that they won the championship. Again, undefeated. It's the the fifth time. Ninth time, fifth program that this has happened for undefeated national champions. So congratulations to them. It was an incredible season for them. They're going to, they've had the best team in the country for a long time. They were favorites. They were huge favorites heading into the tournament. I believe they were like minus 500 or something like that to win the whole thing. Those are huge odds, especially against the entire field. And they go and they get it done. Their path to the championship wasn't easy. They played a close game or two. Uh, they played a couple close games. They had a scare in the Sweet 16, I believe. But it was, other than that, it was a very, very stress-free run. I mean, the first round, they win by almost 60 points, 91-39. Then they win by 40 plus in the second round. A little scare in the Sweet 16 against Indiana. They only win by 4. But then they go back to domination against Oregon State. It's only a 12-point win, but you're getting into the weeds here. And then Final Four, win by almost 30 win by 19 against North Carolina State, and then they win by 12 in the championship game. They had one tight game. They just dominated the whole way through. It really was impressive to see how dominant they were. That team, it goes deep. The other team might have had Caitlin Clark, who's being talked about as the greatest college player of all time by some. Definitely the greatest women's college basketball player. But we take a look at what she's done, and really what this whole tournament has done for women's basketball, women's sports as a whole. You have so many more eyes. There were 17 million people that tuned into this championship game. Before that, the record was 12 million. They shattered records for people tuning in and watching these games. It was super impressive. It's a great step forward for women's sports as a whole. The NCAA announced over the weekend as well that due to the success of this women's tournament, they're actually going to make it equitable, like the same amount of funding going to men's and women's tournaments now, starting next season, which is huge, because of the whole story with the COVID stuff when the women got like a hastily set up gym and the men had all these super nice facilities and everything. This is a great sign for women's sports as a whole. It's a great thing when you have all these people showing up, watching women's sports, making it so it becomes a popular sport. You have it come out. It's not even just women's basketball as a whole. This is the main topic of discussion. Most of the time around this time, it's, hey, let's preview the men's. The women's is over. Let's preview the men's. It's a huge shift in perspective, and it's a welcome one. Something that I really do enjoy about the way that it's going, and hopefully it can continue. I see no reason why it won't, but I think what helped a lot is this men's tournament hasn't been the greatest. It hasn't been. The women's tournament had better storylines, better intrigue. Very, very impressed by the product out there on the court, and hopefully it continues. Hopefully they take this into the 2024 WNBA when all of these players presumably go in this draft. It's going to be a crazy draft class. And that draft is coming up in just a week now, actually. Next Monday, the draft will start. You've got Caitlin Clark. You've got Angel Reese. You've got Paige Beckers. You've got people from Stanford, people from South Carolina. It's a stacked draft class. It's going to be huge. That game, actual game itself, we'll break it down a little bit. South Carolina basically leads the whole way. Caitlin Clark had a very good game. She did. She put up 18 points in the first quarter. That's a record. And she was playing, she puts up a whole lot of points. She puts up 30 points. Something that against almost any other team makes them win. You have 4 players in double digits. She almost put up a triple-double. Little less assists than usual, but when you're going against a team with size, Camila Cardozo puts up 15 and 17. It's the second time in the last 3 games that an opponent has put up 15-15 double-double on them, which I think is really the big difference, the size down low. It really was just a dominant run through the tournament for South Carolina. So, very, very impressed by them. They win 87-75. So, after a dominant first quarter by Iowa, the rest of the game kind of went South Carolina's way. But yeah, let me know what you guys think here in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But yeah. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in so far to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Coming up in our next segment, we're going to talk about the men's Final Four and the preview for UConn and Purdue, the two big 7-foot guys going at it. Someone who is at least not a head shorter than Zach Edey gets to play defense against him, and he goes in that matchup. I'm very excited to see how that goes. That's coming up right after this break on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.